Hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and we are back in the recording studio. Today, we have a wonderful guest that I have a pleasure of working with, Kate of Lilac Accounting. I've always dreamt about having an all-female team, and here we are with a most incredible CPA that I've ever had before, and I cannot wait to share with you guys what Kate has to tell us about her story, her journey, and how she became an entrepreneur. Welcome, Kate.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the lovely introduction.
I know, I'm so excited. I honestly was working with an accounting firm for years, and it just, it was great, but it was a firm, big firm, mostly men, and I've always dreamt of that day when I can actually hire whatever team I kind of want. And having the introduction to you last year was really life-changing. I was like, I can't wait to assemble the team for all of my businesses and have all female entrepreneur kind of powwow networking group / business entrepreneurship, everything. And so having you as a CPA has been really, really helpful and inspiring, really. And your story is so inspiring. I cannot wait to share it with everyone. Tell us a little bit about how you got started in your field.
So it was totally unplanned. I originally went to college to study languages. I took German in high school. It was my favorite subject. So I pursued that in college, but then as I got closer to graduating, I realized I didn't want to teach or translate, which were kind of the main career paths in that field. And I had a bunch of electives, so I took an accounting class on a whim because I figured every business or organization has an accounting department, so that seemed useful. And then I was surprised myself to discover it was my favorite class that semester. And really the turning point was the professor. He was just one of those life-changing teachers who kind of took me under his wing and became a mentor, and he helped me figure out what courses I need to get into a master's program for accounting, sit for the CPA exam, get an internship at a firm. So he really set me up for a great career in accounting, and I'm still close with him today.
Isn't that amazing how one person can change the entire course of our life? And that's why I tell all of the people that are prospective clients of mine, when I pull people into my coaching containers, I always say that one mentor can literally change the entire course of your life. I've had so many very important mentorships throughout my schooling as well, so I could absolutely relate to what you're telling us. And that's so funny that you studied languages and went completely opposite, straight up to the math department, and never really looked back, have you?
No, I loved it. And then I went to go work for a firm. I followed kind of the traditional path from there. I went to work for a firm, sat for the CPA exam, and then I went in-house in a corporation in the wedding industry and was their tax manager for the past 5 years. So I think maybe the connection between the languages and accounting is that like accounting is the language of business. If you wanted to draw some connection there.
I honestly, I know some of our classmates have been saying that you have the perfect one-liners that need to be like written somewhere and trademarked. I think we just got one. That accounting is the language of business. Is that what you said?
Yes. So much of the vocabulary of business, like net income, profit and loss statement, all those things come from accounting. So if you understand accounting, you have a great foundation for entrepreneurship because you understand all the inner workings of the numbers.
Yeah, well, that's actually an interesting point. Most of the people that I coach have no understanding of numbers whatsoever. They're still successful entrepreneurs, but it only goes so far. I coach people that have plateaued and don't know how to break out of that plateau. And I think most of the time it really comes down to the numbers. Because if we don't know the inner workings of the math of our businesses, how are we supposed to scale? So that's where you come in. And I think I was at the same place in my businesses a couple of years ago. And then when I met you, it really helped to get more understanding. How do the numbers work? Math does not lie. math does not have drama. Math is math. And so I think that's really the hard science of the back end of the business. And I love that you are creating so many different offers to help entrepreneurs like myself, because a lot of firms really are at the level where they're not personable with small businesses, right? So I have experiences with some firms that I've worked with in the past where it's an accounting firm and you're working with several people that are just doing input on all of your stuff. And then there's not really personal connection where you can just ask a question or, get a coaching call. I think an accountant is sort of a math coach if you really think about it. So, and your business model is more of that. And I love that because a personal connection with your team is very important. And tell us a little bit about how did you pivot from corporate to having this business model that you have now?
Well, over the years, friends of friends or fellow college alumni would come to me if they were starting a business, and a lot of them were women who were looking for just what you were talking about, an approachable accountant who they could relate to, because a lot of them had worked with maybe like their parents' accountant or like one of the traditional firms, and they just, like you said, didn't feel that personal touch. So I started to think there's so much opportunity in this industry for someone who can do that, who can speak to our generation of entrepreneurs, especially the females. And I've always kind of had the itch to go out on my own, even though I liked my corporate job and it was very stable and steady. I didn't see myself there for 30 to 35 more years until retirement. So I started to think maybe I could, string together enough of these clients to start my own practice. So I took on a few on the side gradually. And then last November of 2023, I was kind of at this cross in the road, because if I stayed in my corporate job for another tax season, I would sort of plateau and not be able to take on any more clients. So even though I didn't have quite enough yet to fully support myself financially, I decided just to take the leap and hope that I would find more of the right clients. And thankfully I did. I think it was really like one of those times when you make the jump and you trust that the universe, God, like has your back, and he totally did. I also, did a lot of work to make that happen. I did a lot of networking, social media, but I just had to trust that the opportunity would show up if I bet on myself and I took the risk.
Yeah, I was just going to say that you did take a risk. And then not only did you take a risk and just sit there, be like, whoop, I did my work. This is it. Universe is sending me clients. You showed up. You decorated your networking tables. You did the work. You went to every networking breakfast meeting. You went wherever the networking was. Kate was showing up. Lilac Accounting had the best purple, tablecloth table that you could see from miles away. You literally did your work. And that's what a lot of people think that they don't really have to do once they've like come up with a cool idea or, made the jump or took a leap. And then they're like, all right, well, now I'm going to sit back and universe is going to send all the things my way. I did the work. But actually, the work starts after you've declared something, after you've made a decision. And I really love that about you. You just really are never, ever stopping. You're just always going towards what you're, envisioning or what you've decided to get. And it's really admirable. And tell us a little bit about that leap that you took, or the jump that you took from corporate to self-employment. Like the element of fear or doubt, what did you do to work through that?
I imagined what the worst case scenario was and realized it wasn't that bad. Like I had enough clients to pay my rent and some of the basic bills. So I thought, even if it takes a while to find some more, I'm not going to be completely in financial trouble. But then also I kind of played out, what happens in 3 or 6 months if the business doesn't pick up as quickly as I want it to? I would just go find a part-time job working for another CPA, or even get another, part-time job in a different field. None of that was beneath me, because I knew that it was just a matter of time. If I kept putting in the work, that it would be successful. And I was willing to, accept some of those bumps along the way, and I didn't see it as failure. I just saw it as, I can get to this goal of being fully self-employed a few different ways. So if I ultimately had to go back somewhere part-time temporarily, I didn't see that as something bad or like I had failed.
Yeah. And it's really cool how you played a scenario, like you imagined a scenario of like, what is the worst thing that could possibly happen? Okay, well, I'm still going to be alive. I'm still going to be loved. I'm still going to be cared for, and I'm still going to have a place to live. And the rest is figure outable. And I think that's a really important scenario or a strategy to use when you're making big decisions in life or business, is just imagining that really worst case scenario, like get down as detailed as you possibly can, and then kind of get yourself out of that place by creating strategies of what if we go that way, what if we go that way. And I think our brains do so much better when you're not downward spiraling in an anxious anxiety, panic attack of like, oh my God, I'm going to be homeless, I'm going to die. And it's, at the end of the day, it really is just currency. Money is currency that is bringing that revolving door of ideas to life. And I really love that you have such a strategic approach. Do you ever have moments of like drama, freak out? A lot of entrepreneurs who are not in hard science, who are not in math, have all this drama about the worst case scenario, or, what if my business fails, and, being afraid of the failing. Do you ever have that?
I have some of it, of course, but I think there's two things that help me, well, maybe three that help me mitigate it. One is I'm super logical, so just by nature, I think because of what I do, I usually don't let my emotions get the better of me. The second is, like, you imagine those worst case scenarios as an entrepreneur, but what's worse than all that drama is the frustration and the complacency of feeling stuck in a life where you're not taking risks, and it's uncomfortable either way. So it's like, would you rather choose the boring uncomfortable or the exciting uncomfortable? I'll take the exciting uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And
then
I
love that.
I think I had a third. Now I'm forgetting what it was, but yeah, just your thoughts. We both work with Jess Sueno and her mastermind, and replacing some of those scared negative thoughts with things like, everything is figure outable. I have kind of a mental list of times that I've done hard things, and when I'm in a hard situation, I think back to those things and I'm like, oh, I can do this. I've survived worse. I always remind myself I passed the CPA exam. Like, a lot of things are not as hard in comparison.
Yeah. How was that exam? I mean, a lot of people that go to school for accounting, they take a really long while to get ready for the exam and pass it. And then was the exam very difficult, or do you think there was other stuff that was more difficult to acquire the skill set that allowed you to be so successful in your field?
The exam is definitely hard, and it's the breadth of information, but the time that it takes to study for it and the consistency in showing up to that, I think, is what a lot of people stumble on. So really, more than anything, like, yes, it teaches you a lot of accounting technical knowledge to study for it, but it also teaches you grit, just to have a big goal that you chip away at little by little. It took me a year total to take all 4 parts, and I was studying for that while working full time. So just the consistency of every night studying, every weekend making time for it, taught me a lot about chipping away at a big goal. And I think ultimately that helps with entrepreneurship too, because this goal of building the business, and I know from studying for the CPA exam, like, okay, if I consistently put a little bit of effort in, eventually it will pay off.
Yeah, absolutely. The consistency is often overlooked by a lot of people in entrepreneurship, just because we have such a fast-paced brain, that consistency sometimes seems like a boring task or boring commitment. And when you think of consistency, you're like, oh, I've got a team for that. They could be consistent. But then also, as a leader, if you're not showing up consistently, then the team won't as well. Speaking of, you are a one-person show right now, right? you a solopreneur? Do you outsource your work? Do you have independent contractors? Like at the moment, how is your business operating?
I currently have one contractor, part-time bookkeeper, about to hire a second. When I initially went out on my own, I always wanted to just be solo, and I thought that I wanted to only have enough clients that would keep me busy, and I didn't want to have to hire a team or anything. But looking back, I realized that was a lot of like fear of letting go of control or having to learn new skills of delegating and things like that. I've also realized there's so many more businesses that need this type of help than I realized. And if I limit my company to only the amount of businesses that I alone can serve, it's doing a disservice to others. So if I can delegate some of the easier tasks to other people to help reach more businesses that need this kind of approachable accounting, then I think it's my duty to do that.
I love that. And yeah, you can't really clone yourself, and that's what we learn as a hard truth in entrepreneurship. But if you can create a team that you can rely on and that can also preserve your company's message and serve the people that you find as clients long term, I mean, that's the dream, really. And I love that you're at that expansion stage of your business. What do you think are the hardest or the most difficult lessons that you are taking away from the entire hiring process and expanding process?
I'm learning a lot about creating repeatable systems. There's a lot in my head that I now have to get into, repeatable processes, and also learning that, just taking on like every client that comes isn't always possible anymore because I have to have repeatable, scalable systems. So niching down into certain industries or only accepting like a certain size business or certain type of work is more the way to grow and scale. I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs relate to early on. You just want to say yes to everything because you're scared that more opportunities might not come. But now I'm more at ease in knowing that there's going to be more opportunity, and it's asking myself like, what is the best fit for me and potential future team members that we can like execute and deliver on well.
That's amazing. You've entered a whole other stage of scaling in your business. How does it feel?
It feels great. I can't believe how much has changed in a year. This time last year, I was still in a corporate job, so I reflect back on that a lot. I'm super grateful, and a lot of the business growth has also been intertwined with personal growth. I think sometimes we bump up against these roadblocks in business and you realize like it's not really a business problem, it's a me problem. Like there's something I need to do to grow or learn to get past this. So
Yeah.
it's constant evolution.
Yeah, and it's amazing that we have as humans the capacity to separate business from personal, but then at the end of the day, it's so intertwined that, like you mentioned, that roadblocks in business sometimes are not business problems, they're you problems. And if you don't do the personal growth, the business will also plateau. And I think that's a really, really cool way of, I guess, living through this whole human experience. And business is never just business, but it is important to have that understanding where the business and personal is. So when it comes to dividing or separating yourself from the business and the business from yourself and having those boundaries of not overworking or not taking on too many clients or, just knowing where that separation is, what are the best techniques that you found work for you?
Oh, I have to admit I struggle with this. I, in terms of myself, I try to think of everything as long term because I do have that kind of workaholic mentality, especially from having worked in a large accounting firm. There were times when we would do, 90 plus hour weeks. I'd pulled all-nighters for work, and I don't want to build a business that requires me to do that. So even though it's tempting in some weeks to say like, oh, I'm just going to push really hard and do a bunch of work, I see, especially now that I'm in my 30s, how more sensitive my body is to that type of thing and how I really have to nourish it more to keep it going in the long run. So I try to remind myself that like walking every day is a huge priority for me. Getting some kind of exercise and eating well, because that sustains me in the long run. Like I can push through short periods and crank out of a lot of work, but then you'll be paying for it the following week. And then same thing with relationships. I'm the type of person who I could work on the weekends, I could work in the evenings, like I could just keep working. But people like my husband and family and friends, they need the time and attention if I want to maintain those relationships in the long run. So I think zooming out helps a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I could totally relate. And that's why we're zooming out tomorrow. Everyone, we're recording this on Monday, and tomorrow we're having a pool party during the middle of the day at Kate's pool. So I will not be disclosing location because it is a very private and closed party. But that's what self-employment and boundaries do. They allow you to have a pool party at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah, that's right. I try to remind myself if we can't do stuff like this occasionally, we're not building the business right. You don't want to feel like shackled to your laptop. That's why we left the corporate world.
Yeah, exactly. And it's something that I've really been coaching myself on and coaching all of my clients on, that if you do not draw positive energy from what you're doing, and you cannot put that positive energy from what you're doing out into the world, it's just not worth it at the end of the day. And I think what you said about zooming out is super helpful, because like if you use a camera, right? And if you zoom in too far, it's just so blurry and it's unclear. The image is really, really bad quality. But if you actually keep zooming out, and then you find that spot where you zoomed out enough, where everything is so clear and you can see every corner of the image that you desire and want to see, there it is. You have your vision, right? So I think it's a really cool metaphor that you put in, zooming out to see that bigger picture of, yeah, this is exactly what I want to see my life to look like, right? So I love that. I love that advice.
Yeah, a lot of us started businesses because we wanted a different way of life, and it's important to, it's really a life vision, a life that we're trying to build, and the business allows for that, not the other way around.
That is true. What is it that's something that you do for fun? I always wonder, because of how logical you are and how, time consuming and energy consuming and brain energy consuming your line of work is. What is something that fills your cup? What is something that replenishes your brain waves so you can give yourself back to work whenever you return?
This summer, I've become obsessed with playing golf. I love it. I play at least once a week, and it's the first thing that goes on my calendar. And I think it's because it forces you to be present. Like I leave my phone in the golf bag. I don't check it when I'm out there for like 2 straight hours. You're outdoors. You're with people. It just forces you to be really like present in conversation and in the game. And it's a good reminder to turn off and step away for, periods of time.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I never was able to get into golf, and I love that you did. I applaud all of your love for golf. And I can see how it just allows you that time. A, fresh air. B, sunlight. You're literally I don't like to use the phrase killing birds with stones because that sounds really violent. I really love birds. So, but you're really achieving all of those things that you need as a human to feel good, right? You're out in nature, even if it's manicured and curated, it's still nature. You're getting that fresh air, you're getting that sunlight, you're getting exercise, and you're getting social aspect of it that a lot of entrepreneurs miss out on because of how much time we spend alone in isolation growing our businesses a lot of times. And I think it's a really good way to get your brain just recharged. And I love that you found something like that. Was there something before golf that got you into that place of refilling and recharging yourself?
Yeah, my other hobby that I love is sewing. I picked it up when I was studying for the CPA exam because I was working in accounting. I was studying accounting at night, and I just needed something like to do with my hands rather than my brain. So that felt really good to like create something and make something physical, which is so different than accounting. And I have that little artistic creative streak to me. Like as a kid, I was really into arts and crafts. So even though you think like accounting and creative projects like that are so different, I like to use that side of my brain sometimes too.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Yeah, you mentioned that you have had some big projects too, not only making arts and crafts and little things, but you made your own dress at some point, right? Was it a wedding dress?
Yes, I made my wedding dress. I make a lot of clothes for myself. That's the main thing that I sew. So that's by far the biggest project I've ever done. So yeah, that was really rewarding. And golf has kind of taken the place of sewing this summer, but I'm sure once it gets too cold to golf, I'll be sewing more again.
I was going to say that it's probably going to be too cold to golf, and I don't think there are many indoor courses where we are. So, um, yeah, so I definitely will make a reappearance, I'm sure of it. Tell us a little bit about what are your favorite parts. If you were to compare, to have that contrast between the career that you had before becoming an entrepreneur versus having your own business and having that element of entrepreneurship in your life now. If you were to compare the two, what are some highlights that you could attribute to either one? You can, elaborate whether you had favorites or like, moments that you look back and you're like, wow, this was super helpful, or in entrepreneurship, just give us some pointers.
I think that the two biggest benefits of working for myself now are choosing who I work with and when I work. Just choosing my own clients versus having them like assigned to me in a big firm has been amazing. When you're doing this work for clients that you like and care about, it's so much more interesting. And then also just being able to set my schedule, even if I'm still working roughly the same amount of hours in a week as I was in corporate. It's so nice to just decide when, if I want to go work out in the morning and then sign on a little later, but work a little later, I totally have the freedom to do that. And I don't have this like weight of feeling like, oh, I'm going to get in trouble if I, want to go out for a walk in the middle of the day or something. So that's been awesome. But I do have my corporate career to thank for all the technical knowledge and experience that I have. I worked on all different kinds of clients, different types of tax. So I am thankful to my years in the corporate accounting world for giving me all the knowledge that I have that I now get to use with my own clients.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's very helpful to have that structure that you learn from first, and then you have the background that you've learned, and then you can just run with it on your own and create whatever it is that you like to see out in the world. And I love that. What are some of the new things you're implementing in your business besides a hiring process? Are there different programs, different offers, different packages? Like, what is happening now at Lilac Accounting?
Yeah, so I'm rolling out a new exciting offer. When I first started my firm, I did just strictly bookkeeping and tax returns, which most people are familiar with what bookkeeping is. It's tracking all the transactions in a business and providing reports that show how much the business earned on a monthly or quarterly basis. Very necessary, especially to do your tax return at the end of the year. But I'm finding that what a lot of the business owners I work with are truly hungry for is more advising and guidance and more future focused work, because a lot of bookkeeping and the tax return is focused on the past and what's already happened in the business. But a lot of business owners feel like they don't have a plan and they don't have a budget and they don't know how to spend their money going forward. So that's more of what I'm going to be doing in the future. The kind of industry buzzword for that now is fractional CFO. So in a big corporation, they would have a full-time CFO or chief financial officer who makes those kinds of money-related decisions about forecasting, predicting how much you're going to earn, how much you should spend. But a lot of smaller businesses don't have the resources to have someone like that in-house full-time. So I'm adding that service to help business owners budget, project cash flow, because these are the things that will really help you stay in business long term.
I love that. like the wizard behind the curtain of making the business grow, but from a mathematical standpoint. Um, yeah, that's so important for growth and for scaling the businesses, is not just to barely keep up with your bookkeeping of the past, or spending the money in the present, but having that vision of not just how you want to feel or how you want your business to look, but how do you want your business to perform in a mathematical sense. Math does not lie, and if your math doesn't math in the future, then perhaps a different business is in order or something like that. That's such an important service that you're rolling out. How are you going to choose clients that you're going to work with for that?
Part of it is going to be, just the size of them, if they're the right size to need that type of service, and going to work with service-based businesses. The three most common industries I work with are therapy practices, wedding professionals, and like social media managers, web designers. So a lot of service-based industries.
Mm-hmm.
And as I gain more expertise in those industries, it helps me advise those clients better, because I see what's kind of standard in the industry, ways they could be saving money, profitability, are they charging the right prices? So niching down into certain industries definitely helps me serve them better.
That's amazing. And how do you find clients? Do you outsource advertising? Do you do paid ads? Do you just have word of mouth? Like, what is your process of client search and outreach?
I haven't done any paid advertising yet. I'm considering it in the future as I niche down, but yeah, there hasn't been a need yet. There's thankfully so much demand for what I do and not a lot of people qualified to provide it. So initially, networking was how I got my first handful of clients, and then word of mouth referrals have been huge from there. I also really enjoy social media. I use Instagram. That's kind of where my target demographic is, and I have a lot of fun with it. So I think that's helped get the word out too.
Yeah. And tell us all, what is your Instagram name so we can have our listeners follow you?
It's lilac_accounting.
Amazing. And lilac is Kate's favorite color.
Yes, there's also a lot of like florals in the branding. It's very feminine.
Yeah.
So I have fun creating that.
I love it. I honestly, when I first saw your networking table, or booth rather, and I saw the tablecloth, I'm like, duh. I was like, why is it Lilac Accounting? Does she love lilacs, or what's up with that? And then I saw it and I was like, that makes perfect sense. She loves that color. She loves those flowers, and it just makes so much sense. Well, thank you so much for giving us so much insight into your life and into your business. Maybe let's leave our listeners with an advice, something that you could give as a piece of advice to someone who's either scaling or pivoting from a corporate career into self-employment, or something that you just feel that in the moment is going to inspire everyone who's listening.
Rather than like a technical piece, I actually find the most common mistake that entrepreneurs make with numbers is telling themselves they're not a numbers person or they're bad at math. All of the math in business is just addition, subtraction, and multiplication. Like if you pass middle school, you can do all the math in business. And when we speak these beliefs over ourselves that we're bad at certain things, it just reinforces it. And if you want to own a business, you have to embrace the data. It's so powerful in helping you improve. So I would start replacing any negative thoughts you have around numbers and money with positive ones, like I can figure this out. I'm good with money. I'm learning about money. Really, I find that the way that entrepreneurs speak to themselves about money is often their biggest stumbling block.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. I used to also believe that, even though I was an advanced math student in my last 2 years of high school and first 3 years of university. When I moved to the United States, they had to place me after the placement test. They had to place me into Math 109 in my first year instead of 101. That's how high I placed in the mathematical exam. And then when I became a business owner, somehow I was not a math person. And then it took me years to actually start talking to myself about the numbers of the business, just like you advise right now. So yeah, actually, nothing's changed. I still am a good math person, and it's a work in progress. I don't know why we go into entrepreneurship believing that we are not good at math when most of us actually are.
Yeah, you absolutely have enough math to do this. For some reason, when it becomes tied to money, it's a very emotional topic for people. So I think they have these internal blocks around it. But yeah, that's a great thought to have is like remember all the times in school you did much harder math than what's involved in business.
Yeah, really. I think there's so much to unpack when it comes to emotional addition to money that we have as humans and also as entrepreneurs, and how much of that money actually unearths for us. But super helpful. Thank you so much for your advice, and thank you for all of the wisdom you shared, and thank you for sharing your story. And I am so excited to keep working with you, and I'm excited about your fractional CFO offer. Are you extending that offer on social media, or do you just offer it to people that you already work with?
Yes, I'm extending it to new clients as well. So if you're curious about it, go follow me on Instagram. That's really where I'm the most active, and also has the link to my website where you can learn more.
Awesome. And I'm also going to link all of it in show notes, so people have access to all the information they need, and they can find themselves either a CPA or a fractional CFO, which both are incredibly necessary. Thank you so much, Kate, for coming on to the podcast today. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a really fun conversation.
Yep, I love it. And we're going to have you on season 2 in a few months. For those of you who have been following Thrive with Ina podcast, you know that everyone who's interviewed on season 1 is going to be on season 2, and we're going to dive deep into a topic of our choosing and follow along of what's happening in our entrepreneurs' lives. So if you like this episode, like, share, comment, and send it to a friend who needs a fractional CFO. And that's how we grow. And that's how all of the things get shared. So yeah, go for it. Like, share, comment. See you guys all on the next episode. Bye.